All right, what is good, everybody? This is the second episode of e-commerce news in the very short segment. So we're going to start off with Shopify e-commerce online sales. They are increasing and has gained market share. So we all know that ever since the pandemic, everyone's shopping habits have changed, shopping online because you can't go to these retail stores, right? So everyone's shopping habits have been changed. So total e-commerce sales jumped from 8.6% in quarter one of 2021 compared to 5.9% in quarter one of 2020. So we're seeing a surge in not only e-commerce but in Shopify as well. A lot of people creating their own brand. You know, e-commerce is a huge spectrum. By e-commerce, we can say eBay, Amazon, Mercari, Poshmark, all those e-commerce platforms. But for Shopify, it has been growing really, really fast. And arguably, Shopify is the best platform to create brands nowadays. I know there's Wix, there's Squarespace, but WooCommerce as well. But really, I think everyone, when you go on YouTube especially, or everyone that's been on the podcast, they usually use Shopify. I only had one person use WooCommerce, and that's because they're transitioning from Etsy to WordPress slash WooCommerce. So yeah, Shopify is definitely growing. Second topic is, this is kind of a funny one. So Walmart has filed papers opposing a trademark from Kanye West's Yeezy brand. So I'm going to show the video. If you're listening to this, the best way to describe it is Walmart's kind of looks like sun rays. Their logo kind of looks like sun rays. Yeezy's brand is like the same thing, but with dots. And so Walmart has filed papers opposing that trademark because Yeezy has tried to file a patent or a trademark for that logo, and Walmart is appealing to it. So it's kind of funny because, I was watching this video of, Shenzhen, China, how a lot of their stuff is open source, and they're kind of like describing the fact that here in the US, there's so many patents, trademarks, and that really slows down the innovation of technology and improvisation, if that makes sense, right? I know this is just a logo, but when you look at China and Shenzhen, a lot of their stuff is open source. And I don't know, it's weird, but to reflect on that, it just kind of weird, like, man, it's just a logo. And maybe I'm thinking about this incorrectly, but it's just funny that Walmart is competing or has problems with Kanye West. Both huge brands. Walmart is a huge business and competing with Amazon, which is another topic. And then you have Kanye West, who's a massive personal brand, especially with his Yeezy brand too. So that's very, very interesting. Definitely check that out. I'll include a link in the show notes for that article. Now, this is something very interesting as well. So, best practices for creating compelling e-commerce product videos. So, we all know that if you're gonna buy something on Shopify, so say you're a buyer, you're a consumer, you're gonna buy a product from Nike, whatever your favorite shop is, or you go on Facebook or you see an ad and you click on it and you want to buy a product. Now, first and foremost, since everything's almost online nowadays, you need to have a way to pay with your credit slash debit card. So every e-commerce shop, every small business who has an online retail shop needs to have a way to pay with your debit credit. If not, then your e-commerce shop is not going to get any sales whatsoever, right? So that's credit and debit. And then you can also have, when you have Shopify, I don't know if it's a default payment, but you can have Stripe, right? There's Stripe, there's PayPal, there's Square. These are really good services, really good payment providers. I know for a fact when I was interviewing some people doing e-commerce and they were outgrowing or really scaling their business, the crazy thing was that they're doing so well that Stripe couldn't fulfill all their transactions. So they had to find yet another one. But that was a story of a couple people, a couple entrepreneurs, e-commerce entrepreneurs, where they're doing so well that Stripe couldn't handle their transactions, so they had to find other ones. And that's not to downsize Stripe or any other platform like that, but overall, you're gonna need a payment processor to accept credit or debit. If not, everyone knows about this, I think, hopefully, but it's very important to have these payment processors. Now, another cool thing is this. You probably have seen them before. When you want to buy an expensive product, you know what? It doesn't have to be an expensive product. It can be some shoes that cost maybe $70, $80, $100, and you can pay them all at once, right? But you can also pay them in installments through Sezzle. I think I'm pronouncing that name right. But the whole principle is you buy now and you pay later. So you have these buy now, pay later solutions, and you see these through like Sezzle or it's saying right here, Laybuy. But most recognizable is Sezzle. And you want to provide the path of least resistance to your customers, in my opinion, right? So say, for example, someone really wants to buy a canvas painting, right? But they don't have all the funds, or they want to buy it for a gift, but they don't have all the funds. They can't pay it right away. And you know what? You might be like, I'm going to find another shop that has a cheaper product. Maybe not the best quality, but something cheaper because I can't afford it right now, even though I really want to buy it. So this option of buying now and paying later can be a really good solution to securing these payments from people going into your shop, right? Having the path of least resistance, I think, is always a good option, always a good idea to have this payment processor, these payment ideas into your shop. Now, another cool topic is retail stores. So last episode we were talking about retail stores and is it dead? Now, we were talking about how crazy technology has come so far, in Amazon's case where they implemented AR technology in, what was it, where you point at a product and then you can see all the information, displays, etc. And it's crazy what they're doing in retail stores. But again, it was only an experiment with Amazon, in this case, in their cosmetic brand in London. Not brand, but retail store in London, right? Retail stores need to be digital first and become omni-channel. So does that mean that if you have a retail store, you're killing yourself, you're not doing a good job, get out of that? No, that doesn't mean that. So in this really interesting article, which I'll put in the show notes as well, is that to be omni-channel, you want to be on different sorts of platforms, usually Instagram, Facebook, maybe even TikTok, etc., right? Customers, when they see a product, it's not like they see it right away and then they buy it. Usually what happens is that they see a product and then they Google it or they check it out on Instagram. They want to see if it's like a legit product, if there's influencers using the product, so they can kind of reaffirm, like, this product is something that's trustworthy. People have been using it. There's good reviews. Instagram's on point. Let me buy it. And so what does that mean for your retail store? You want to have an end-to-end sort of buying experience. So you have your omni-channel approach where you kind of brand your products, your business overall. And then the thing with the retail store is something that's very, very interesting according to Practical Ecommerce. This is the article that I'm looking at right now, where they're looking at the supply chain sort of things, right? And in this case, they're looking at the retailer Kroger. So Kroger is a huge, huge company, and I believe they have a lot of Krogers around the United States. I don't know how many exactly, but they do have a lot. And now, kind of like what Amazon's doing is, or like Walmart more specifically, Walmart, there's tons of Walmarts across the United States. And Walmart is using their Walmarts as fulfillment centers because Amazon has 2-day shipping, and guess what? Walmart can do 1-day shipping, hours shipping, because for the average American, they live at least, or on average, 13 minutes away from their nearest Walmart. So if they're 13 minutes away from the nearest Walmart, that means they can get their products instantly and not just in 1 day, 2 days that Amazon provides. So in the supply chain for retailers, instead of having the retail store so you can go in and buy stuff, you can use that as a way to improve your supply chain and move products from there, and then concentrate all the other stuff within your omnichannel to have your customers buy from you. Because I do think that having your own fulfillment center, your own data, your own warehouses could be a lot more efficient. Again, I'm not a supply chain expert, but this is something that's very, very interesting. And again, going back to episode 1 in the e-commerce news segment, retail stores, I don't think it's dead. If you can add some sort of experiential side to it, that'll be beautiful. If you can use it as a fulfillment center, then that's beautiful, right? But in terms of going to the actual store without having these technologies that we explained in the previous episode, it might be a waste of time, right? Let's put it that way. So that concludes the e-commerce news segment, and very interesting things. Again, e-commerce is growing, it's scaling, and there's so many ways to get into it. Like I said, you can go not only Shopify or Amazon, but there's eBay. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking with Ryan and how he resells sneakers through Poshmark and Mercari. He did do Facebook Marketplace. He did do StockX. There's so many ways to make money online. And the giants, like I said again, Shopify, Amazon. Now even Walmart is getting into the mix because if Walmart really wants to compete with Amazon. But yeah, e-commerce is on the rise. It's crazy. It's growing. And I think I said this before in previous podcast episodes, where this is only my opinion. you can take this with a grain of salt. But if you want to become an entrepreneur or a well-rounded entrepreneur, better yet, I think that e-commerce is by far the best industry to get in. And I think that especially if you're a solopreneur getting in, of course you can hire a team as you scale. But with e-commerce, there's so many variables, so many things that you have to learn. First and foremost, if you're gonna do the drop shipping method, you need to do your due diligence in product research. If you're gonna create your own product from scratch, and people have done that, we shared stories on the podcast where you create your own products, you manufacture them themselves, you prototype them, you test the market to validate it, right? And that's another step that can be crazy. You have your own Kickstarter, you bootstrap it, whatever you do. So you got to do your market research on the product, right? You got to do the marketing for the product, the branding, social media, advertising. It's a lot of things at once. And you might think, as a solopreneur, how in the heck can I do this? But we see it with drop shippers, and not just the people who are just creating their own products, but drop shippers, people who are leveraging other suppliers from overseas, selling those products, doing private labeling. But that's besides the point. Point is, with e-commerce, as an entrepreneur, you have to learn so many things: sales, marketing, branding, product development, product research, social media, etc. And of course, it might be hard for a solopreneur to do this, and that's why you might need a team as you scale up. But nevertheless, guys, thank you for tuning in. Till next time, all right?